Amina always believed she had the perfect life in Enugu. Her husband, Tunde, was everything a woman could wish for. Successful, handsome, and full of charm. He often came home late, always with the same excuse. Work is just too much these days. Sometimes he would disappear for whole weekends, his phone always locked, and she noticed their money was disappearing fast. But Amina kept brushing it off, telling herself he was just working hard to give them a better life. Then one Saturday afternoon, everything changed. She was shopping at a busy mall when a little girl, about 5 years old, tugged at her dress and looked up with a big smile. "Hi, Aunty," she said sweetly. "My daddy talks about you." Amina bent down slowly, her heart starting to race. "Who's your daddy?" she asked softly. The girl pointed toward a man standing near the escalator. Amina turned to look, and there he was, Tunde, laughing and holding hands with another woman, like he didn't have a wife. The girl ran to him and shouted, "Daddy, Auntie's here." Tunde froze. That one innocent moment destroyed everything Amina thought she knew about her marriage. Amina stood there frozen, her heart thudding loud in her chest as the little girl smiled up at her with such innocence. Trying to stay calm, Amina bent down and gently asked, "Who's your daddy?" The girl looked excited, like she was about to share something fun. She raised her tiny finger and pointed across the busy mall. Amina turned to look in the direction she pointed, and her whole world tilted. Standing near the escalator was Tunde, her Tunde, the same man she had cooked for, prayed with, and trusted with everything. But he wasn't alone. He was standing there with another woman, their hands locked together like teenage lovers. They were laughing, looking so comfortable, so happy. The way he looked at the woman, carefree, easy, it hit Amina like a punch to the stomach. For a second, she couldn't breathe. Her feet wouldn't move. Her eyes stayed locked on him as the little girl let go of her hand and ran straight to him. "Daddy, Auntie's here," the girl shouted with joy. That sentence, so simple and full of innocence, changed everything. Tunde turned, and when his eyes met Amina's, he froze, completely, like a thief caught in the act. His smile vanished, his grip on the other woman's hand loosened, and his body stiffened. He didn't say a word. He just stood there, shocked, guilty written all over his face. The woman beside him looked confused and asked, "Who's that?" But Tunde didn't answer. He couldn't. Amina felt like the ground was disappearing under her feet. Her ears were ringing, her mind was spinning, but on the outside, she didn't scream, she didn't cry. She just stood there, quiet, broken, but calm. People were walking past, busy with their own shopping, not knowing that Amina's life had just shattered in the middle of that mall. She slowly turned around and walked out, her hands shaking, her eyes wet, but her face strong. She didn't want to cause a scene, not yet, not until she knew everything. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept hearing that little voice in her head. "My daddy talks about you." What did he say about her? Did the little girl even know who she was? Was she just a name, a story, a secret? The questions were endless. Amina sat up all night thinking. She remembered the locked phone, the sudden trips, the strange receipts she once found. All the signs were there. She had just refused to believe them. For years, she had defended him to her friends. "Tunde is just working hard," she'd say. "He's a good man." But now, everything made sense. The puzzle pieces were falling into place, and they painted a very ugly picture. But Amina didn't let anger take over. She didn't rush to confront him. Instead, she made a plan. The next morning, she called an old friend who worked at a mobile company. "I need help," she said. And within a few hours, she had access to Tunde's call logs. She studied every number, every pattern. There it was, a particular number he called every single night, especially during the times he said he was working late. Amina traced the number, and it led her to Ibadan. That's when she discovered the worst part. Tunde had bought an apartment there, not rented, bought, and he didn't live there alone. Digging deeper, Amina found something even more painful. Tunde had done a second marriage under customary law. It was official. She wasn't just being cheated on, she was being replaced. And the money he used for that life, it came from their joint account. Her savings, her sacrifices, all used to build a lie. Still, Amina didn't break. She collected every document, every receipt, every photo. She kept screenshots of chats, bank records, and even found someone who had seen them together in the Ibadan neighborhood. One day, she took a trip there herself. She wanted to see the other woman with her own eyes. She spoke to a few people and asked casual questions. The truth hit harder than she expected. The woman believed she was Tunda's only wife. She didn't even know Amina existed. Tunda had told her that Amina was just a cousin who needed help. Amina couldn't believe it. Her heart ached, not just from betrayal, but from how small he had made her in someone else's story. But she refused to be a victim. She was going to end this her own way, quietly, powerfully. She contacted a lawyer in secret. She made her moves in silence, and she waited for the right moment to expose the man who had made a fool of her love. What Tunda didn't know was that Amina had changed. That moment in the mall, that sweet, innocent little girl, had woken something inside her. The woman who once ignored red flags had become a woman who saw clearly. Amina was no longer the trusting wife who made excuses for late nights and missing money. She was ready, she was stronger, and she was going to take back everything he tried to steal: her peace, her dignity, and her power. Amina got back home that evening with a heavy heart, but she didn't cry. She didn't scream or break anything. She didn't even ask Tundi any questions. She just smiled at him when he walked in, pretending everything was fine. But deep inside, something had shifted. Her heart was broken, yes, but her mind had become sharp. She had seen enough to know she was being played, and now she needed the full truth. So instead of fighting, she started investigating, quietly, carefully. The next morning, she called her old friend who worked at a mobile network company. "I need you to do something for me," she said in a low voice. It didn't take long before she got access to Tunda's call records. She sat down and studied every number, every call, every timestamp. One number kept popping up, especially late at night and on weekends. That was her first clue. She saved the number and got someone to trace it. What she found made her blood run cold. That number belonged to a woman living in Ibadan. And that wasn't all. Tunda had bought an apartment in that city. A whole apartment. Not a hotel room or a secret Airbnb, but a real apartment with furniture, bills, everything. She stared at the documents her contact had found, her hands shaking. It was all in his name, paid from the same joint account they shared, the same account where she had been saving for a business, saving for their son's school, saving for their future. All of it used to build a secret life behind her back. But the most painful discovery came next. After more digging, Amina found out that Tunda hadn't just been living with this woman, he had married her. Yes, married her, under customary law. There were witnesses, photos, a signed agreement, a whole traditional ceremony, and Amina had never known. She had been sleeping beside this man, cooking his meals, caring for his family, while he was living like a king in 2 cities. She stared at the wedding pictures in disbelief, the way he smiled, the way he held the other woman's hand. It was the same smile he used to give Amina, the same hand he used to hold hers. She sat on the bed, numb, the papers scattered all around her. Everything felt like a movie. But this wasn't fiction. This was her life, a life she had built with love and trust. And now it was full of lies. She couldn't believe how far he had gone. He didn't just cheat. He built another home, another life, another version of himself. He had lied to her, lied to the other woman, and worse, used her own money to do it. All those years when she thought he was working hard for their family, he was actually spending their savings on a double life. But Amina didn't fall apart. She stayed calm. She knew now wasn't the time to act on emotion. She took photos of every document. She copied every message, saved every receipt, and recorded every phone call she could. She started building her own case piece by piece. No one knew what she was doing, not even her best friend. She trusted no one. She pretended like life was normal. She smiled at church, cooked dinner, even ironed his shirts like everything was fine. But inside, she was turning into a woman with a mission. She reached out to a lawyer secretly, a woman who had helped someone in a similar situation. They met at a quiet cafe, and Amina laid out everything. The lawyer looked at her and said, "You've done more work than some detectives." That made Amina smile, just a little. It was the first time she had felt strong in weeks. They started planning together. Every detail had to be perfect. This wasn't just about divorce. This was about exposing the truth, taking back her power, and protecting herself and her son. One day, Amina took a trip to Ibadan herself. She needed to see the truth with her own eyes. She didn't confront anyone. She just watched. She visited the neighborhood where the apartment was, asked quiet questions, and found out something that broke her heart even more. The other woman believed she was Tunde's only wife. She introduced herself to neighbors as Madam. She said her husband worked in Enugu and traveled often. Amina was no longer just hurt. She was angry. Tunde had not only betrayed her, but he had lied to this other woman too. He had painted Amina as a cousin who needed financial help. A cousin. That night, Amina sat in a hotel room in Ibadan and stared at herself in the mirror. She didn't cry anymore. She felt something else now. Clarity. Strength. She whispered to herself, "I will not let him break me." She knew what she had to do. Her next step would be loud, public, and unforgettable. But before that, she would keep pretending. Tunde would never see it coming. While he laughed and lived his double life, Amina was about to build a comeback so powerful it would make him regret ever thinking she was weak. Amina knew she couldn't afford to act in anger. She had seen too much. She also understood that reacting too quickly could ruin everything, so she kept quiet. She played her role perfectly, the loving, trusting wife. Every morning she cooked breakfast. Every night she smiled at Tunde and asked about his day. But behind those calm eyes, she was collecting evidence like a detective. She printed out his call logs, saved photos of his secret apartment, downloaded receipts of their joint account transactions, and saved chats and recordings. Every little thing that proved the truth, she kept it safe. She even had a separate folder on a hidden flash drive, stored away where no one would find it. Amina had turned her pain into purpose. She didn't stop there. She found a smart, discreet lawyer, someone recommended by a women's support group online. They met in secret, always in quiet places where no one could recognize her. She told the lawyer everything and showed her the evidence. The lawyer was shocked at how detailed and organized Amina was. She told her, "You've already done half the work. Now it's time to protect what's yours." Together, they started building a case, not just for divorce, but to make sure Tunde wouldn't walk away easily. Amina was going to hit him where it hurt, his image, his pride, and his wallet. But Amina wasn't done yet. She needed to see things for herself. So, one weekend when Tunde said he was going for a business trip, Amina went to Ibadan again. This time, she dressed simply, wore dark glasses, and acted like a visitor. She walked around the other woman's neighborhood, asking friendly questions like someone looking to rent a house nearby. People opened up easily, and what she found made her stomach turn. Everyone there thought the woman was Tunde's only wife. "Oh, they're such a lovely couple," one old woman said. She said her husband is always working in Enugu, but he comes home often. Another neighbor told her, "He's very caring. They have a beautiful relationship." Amina stayed calm, smiling and nodding, but inside she felt a storm. This man had erased her existence. She wasn't just betrayed. She had been erased, replaced. And the worst part, he had told them she was just a cousin, a helpless cousin he was supporting. The woman he had married under customary law, the one who wore her husband's ring and lived in the house bought with her money, had no idea Amina even existed as his real wife. Amina sat on a bench nearby, watching their building from a distance, and her eyes filled with tears. Not because she still loved him, but because she realized how deep the lies had gone. She had given him everything, her heart, her trust, her support, and in return, he turned her into a shadow in his life story. But those tears didn't last long. Amina wiped her face, stood up, and whispered to herself, "No more." She was done being the quiet one. She was done letting him control the story. Now it was her turn. Her pain had given her power, and she was going to use it. She returned to Enugu the next day, more focused than ever. She continued her plan without making a sound. Every day, She was getting stronger. She practiced what she would say, how she would stand, and when she would strike. Her lawyer was helping her prepare for the big move, and Amina made sure everything was in place. Tunda had no idea. He still laughed with her at dinner. He still acted like the perfect husband. He was living in a lie so deep, he couldn't see the storm coming. Amina started saving small amounts of money on the side, just in case she needed to move quickly. She told no one what she was doing. Not her friends, not her family. She trusted no one, because she didn't want anything to ruin her plan. She knew that once she made her move, it had to be big, public, and unforgettable. Tunda had taken her for granted for too long. Now she was going to show him that the woman he thought was weak had become a warrior. Late at night, when the house was quiet and Tunda was fast asleep beside her, Amina would stare at the ceiling and imagine her moment. The moment she would take back her voice, her strength, her story. She thought of the little girl in the mall, the innocent smile that had opened the door to the truth. That girl had no idea, but she had started a fire inside Amina. A fire that was now ready to burn through every lie, every fake smile, and every excuse Tunda had ever given. Amina was ready. Her heart was no longer soft for him. Her eyes no longer looked at him with love. She looked at him like a woman who had survived the worst and was now about to rise. She didn't need revenge for pain. She needed justice for the years stolen from her, and she was about to get it, not with tears, but with truth. Her next move would not only change her life, it would shake his world to the core. On Tunde's birthday, Amina did something no one expected. She smiled brighter than ever, walked with grace, and acted like the happiest wife in the world. She told Tunda she wanted to throw him a surprise party, something grand, something unforgettable. He was flattered, of course. He had no idea what she was really planning. Amina booked a beautiful event hall in town. She sent out special invitations to everyone, Tunda's family, friends, his office colleagues, even their church members. But one special guest received a private invite, the other wife from Ibadan. Amina made sure she would come. She told her it was a celebration for someone they both knew well. Curious and unaware, the woman agreed to attend. On the day of the party, the hall was filled with people. Laughter, music, and food filled the air. Tunda walked in and was met with cheers and singing. He was smiling from ear to ear, soaking up all the love and attention. Amina walked beside him in a stunning dress, her face calm, her heart racing. Everything was in place. The guests enjoyed the food, drinks, and dancing. People were complimenting Amina, saying what a wonderful wife she was to plan such an event. And Tunde, he was enjoying every moment, shaking hands, taking pictures, greeting everyone, still living in his fantasy world. Then came the moment Amina had been waiting for. The music stopped, the lights dimmed. She took the microphone, smiled warmly at the crowd and said, "Thank you all for coming. Today, we are not just celebrating Tunda's birthday, we are also celebrating truth." Everyone looked confused, whispering among themselves. Tunda looked at her, puzzled. Then Amina pointed to the screen. "Let's watch something together," she said. The projector came on. At first, it showed happy pictures. Tunda and Amina together, their wedding photos, their family moments. Then, the images changed. Pictures of Tunda with the other woman, photos of the apartment in Ibadan, scanned documents of the second marriage, audio clips of Tunde lying to both women, screenshots of bank transfers, call logs, messages. Each slide, each sound told the full story of his betrayal. The room went completely silent. No one moved. No one even breathed. The camera caught every reaction. Some guests covered their mouths. Others shook their heads in shock. Tunda's mother looked away in shame. His colleagues stared, embarrassed. But the most heartbreaking moment came from the other woman. She stood there frozen, her hands trembling. She had no idea. She thought she was the only wife. She burst into tears and ran out of the hall. Amina just stood there, calm, collected, powerful. Tunde tried to speak. He stuttered, looked around, stepped forward like he wanted to explain. But Amina didn't give him the chance. She reached into her handbag, pulled out a brown envelope, and walked straight to him. With steady hands, She handed him the divorce papers. "You've been served," she said softly, but the words hit like thunder. Then she turned around and walked away. At first, the room was silent. Then, slowly, one person started clapping, then another, then more. The applause grew louder and louder, echoing across the hall. People stood up, cheering for Amina. She didn't turn back. She walked out with her head high, her dignity untouched. Her power returned. Outside the hall, the night air felt cool against her skin. She took a deep breath and felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. She had planned every second of that evening, and it had worked perfectly. She hadn't screamed, fought, or begged. She had simply told the truth in the most unforgettable way. Her silence had become her strength. Her pain had become her power. Tunda, left inside the hall, was now a broken man. Everyone knew the truth. His charm couldn't save him now. His lies were out in the open, and the woman he thought he had fooled, she had walked away stronger than ever. Amina went home that night, not to cry, but to rest. She slept deeply, knowing she had taken her life back. The next day, the story started spreading. People couldn't stop talking about the birthday party that exposed a liar. Videos leaked. Blogs wrote about it. Women across the country shared the story, calling Amina brave, bold, and brilliant. But for Amina, it wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming her truth. She had spent years in the dark, but now she was walking in the light, and no one, not even Tunda, could take that from her again. 6 months later, Amina's life looked completely different and much brighter. She had moved to Accra, Ghana, and opened her own boutique filled with beautiful clothes and accessories. She smiled every morning as she unlocked the door to her shop, not because life was perfect, but because she was finally free. Her boutique was doing well, and it was funded legally by the assets she claimed from her divorce. She had fought smart, and she had won. But her story didn't end there. One day, a popular blogger heard about what happened at Tunde's birthday party, how a little girl in a mall had unknowingly exposed a man living a double life. The blogger called it the mall kid who exposed a double husband, and the story went viral. People everywhere were talking about Amina. Her courage inspired thousands of women. Instead of hiding, Amina used her voice to help others. She started a small foundation that supported women who were victims of marital fraud. She gave them legal advice, emotional support, and most of all, hope. And as for Tunda, the last time Amina heard about him, he was in court, fighting for custody of the child he once used to destroy his first marriage. The same woman he chose over Amina had now turned against him too. Life had come full circle, but Amina, she was just getting started.